So March Madness is finally here. Today is Selection Sunday, and I thought it would be a great time to do a new 2026 NBA mock draft. Because we're about to hear so much of these prospects throughout the next few weeks, as maybe one of them is going to make it to the Final Four or the National Championship. Some of these players are going to help or hurt their draft stocks. And who doesn't love a new updated mock draft? So what is going on, everybody? How is everybody doing today? I'm definitely going to be doing my March Madness bracket out tomorrow, but today is Selection Sunday, so we know where some of these prospects are going to be in March Madness. Let's do a lottery sim to start things off. So we definitely see some movement here, but no crazy movement. We see the Utah Jazz go up to number 1. We see the Hawks via the Pelicans get number 2. The Wizards are number 3. The Kings drop to 4. The Clippers are at number 5, which means the Pacers give the Clippers their first round pick. The Nets fall to 6. That is kind of brutal for their rebuild. And then you have Charlotte, Golden State, Portland, and now Philly. They're in the play-in tournament spots, which means the Jazz have a fascinating selection here at number 1, because there's a couple different routes they could definitely go with. Because if you're Utah, right, who do you target with the selection? Do you take the kid down the road in AJ DeBonsa, but you did acquire Jaren Jackson Jr., you still have Valerie Markin, and you're probably going to bring back Walker Kessler, so do you think AJ DeBonsa is a good fit on this team? What about Cameron Boozer? Because his dad, Carlos Boozer, is part of that front office. Is there a conflict of interest? Does Carlos Boozer have to leave the draft room when they have to make this pick? Or they go Darren Peterson? I think fit matters a ton here when you're looking at the top 3, and I don't think there's a correct top 3 order right now. You ask 10 different people, they might give you every single different combination of what the top 3 can look like. I think it would still be Darren Peterson with the number 1 overall pick. It is really tough, though, because Boozer, where does he play with Markkanen? Is he going to play the 2? Is Markkanen going to play the shooting guard next year? And if you're going to take somebody number 1 overall, I think you want them to maximize the lineup. Maybe if you do take Boozer to Bonsa, then you think about selling high on Lauri Markkanen. You're probably not going to trade Triple J, but do you think about maybe doing some type of different sign and trade with Walker Kessler? Who knows? I don't know if Darren Peterson is the best player in the draft. That is who I think is still the best player right now. And he's been dealing with some cramping issues all year long. You hope that's beside him when he gets to the NBA level, as he's still very young. He is still a teenager. I don't think Kansas was a great fit for him entirely. The Kansas roster has been up and down all year long. They did not have a strong Big 12 tournament. They did beat TCU, but they went out in kind of embarrassing fashion to Houston. Nobody played well. And it just makes me think like, okay, can Bill Self produce any top talent at the NBA level anymore, or is he just going to be more of like a transfer guy? Because Kansas was really disappointing in 2025 with the talent they had on their roster, at least in the regular season of the Big 12. So I believe Darren Peterson would go number 1 in this mock. Let me know down below, especially if you're a Jazz fan, what would you do? Because are you going to play AJ DeBonsa at the 2? Are you going to play Cameron Boozer out there and just roll ultra big with Kessler, Boozer, Markkanen, and Triple J? Let me know, because obviously Keontae George is in the backcourt. You definitely have Darren Peterson, who's a more of a score-first guy. I know he doesn't get a ton of assists at Kansas, but if you watched him against Houston, he made some really nice reads. His teammates were just not knocking down shots. It's a little bit of like Ace Bailey-esque during his Rutgers days, and that's who I think is going to go number 1. Number 2, though, this is also fascinating because the Atlanta Hawks have so many wings as it is, right? You have Jonathan Kuminga, who you just picked up. He might not be there next year. We'll see. But you have Jalen Johnson, who's kind of like a de facto point guard, but he's a forward for you. Reese Shea. You also have Nickeil Alexander-Walker. I think this team would go Cam Boozer. I don't think DeBonsa is projected to be like this elite defender by any means, and Boozer is definitely going to have his flaws defensively, but I think you want somebody that can have a great two-man game with Jalen Johnson. He's going to set great screens. He can operate at the short roll. He can have that fluid movement offense because he could find guys all over the place because he's got great court vision out of the post or out of the short roll, or honestly, as somebody at the top of the key. His jumper has looked great all year long as well, and he would get some really good looks. Once again, what is the positional fit out there? Because maybe it's Jalen Johnson at the 3, maybe it's not at the 2, Daniels at the 1, and you still need that traditional 5. There's no traditional 5 to take here. You got to take who you think is best player available, and I still lean Boozer over AJ, but I still think it's team dependent, which means AJ DeBonsa is about to be a Washington Wizard, which I also think is a really solid destination for AJ in a way, because when you look at their team long term, who is like the franchise number 1 scoring option? Is it Trae Young? I don't think so. Is it Anthony Davis? No, he might not even be on this roster in 2027. I love Keyshawn George. I love Bilal Coulibaly. I love Alex Sarr as these like young players that can do things well. I just don't think any of them can handle that offensive workload. But if we're surrounding AJ Deponsa with a great playmaker like Trae Young, with a great rim protector, and a solid screen setter right now that you hope gets better in Alex Sarr, and then you maybe even have Anthony Davis around him, Keyshawn George, Bilal Coulibaly, Trey Johnson, maybe has high-end 2 scoring potential in the NBA. I don't think number 1, but AJ Deponsa does have that number 1 scoring potential. He's arguably the best scoring wing prospect we have seen since Kevin Durant, which was almost 2 decades ago. And that's how I think this top 3 would play out. Darren Peterson to Utah, Cameron Boozer to Atlanta, and AJ Deponsa to Washington. Let me know if you agree or disagree with that top 3. So the Sacramento Kings are here with the 4th overall pick, and now this gets kind of interesting because the conference tournament run that Darius Acuff is having could potentially put him in play for the Sacramento Kings with the 4th overall pick. This team is looking for its franchise point guard. I still think you got to go Caleb Wilson now. I think Caleb Wilson is still the 4th best player in the draft. It sucks that we got no ACC tournament run out of Caleb Wilson. We thought we were getting him back at the end of the year against Duke, and then he suffers an injury in practice. His season is done, so no March Madness, which kind of eliminates UNC's chances at winning the whole thing. But Caleb Wilson has an argument for the best defensive player in the draft. He's a freshman. He's a great rebounder. He's an elite shot blocker, and he's got an elite like standing reach frame. This guy's going to throw down dunks that you honestly didn't even think were possible at some points. He's no Victor Wembanyama out there, but for his position and for somebody that's 6'10", his standing reach is definitely going to blow us away at the combine. And I'm really excited to see his measurements. I think the Kings have to go best player available. I mean, this could be like Jaden Ivey, Keegan Murray, from the 2022 draft. They were sitting at the exact same spot at number 4. I could see the Kingston Fleming's appeal. I could see the Darius Acuff appeal. I'm still going to go Caleb Wilson with the 4th overall pick there out of UNC. I just think the Kings have to go best player available at that point. So we're on the clock here, 5 with the LA Clippers. There's a couple different routes they could go here because when you're looking at the board and how it's fallen, the Clippers just traded for Darius Garland at the deadline. This team definitely needs a wing. They definitely need a big, but there's no really wing or big that you could like here at the 5th overall spot. I love Darius Acuff, but I just don't think him and Darius Garland would work together in Los Angeles. I just think you have 2 smaller guards in the backcourt. We've seen it time and time again. And a lot of those guys, or at least Acuff and Garland, like to operate with the ball in their hands. I don't think Ament's going to be a great off-ball player at times. I think you can run sets for him, but you have to have, I think, a cohesive unit around. And I just don't like Garland and Darius Acuff in that backcourt together. Keaton Wagler, I like, but I think if you're looking for a good shooter, this might be the highest I've talked about Mikal Brown. I think he could be in play. You could definitely trust Kingston Fleming's defense in the backcourt. And I'm going back and forth between Flemings and Mikal Brown Jr., and I think people might be skeptical of Mikal Brown Jr. because he didn't have the greatest season in the ACC, but I do believe that he's one of the best shooters in this class. He was an elite free throw shooter. The three-point shot came alive as he was getting healthier before he got hurt leading up to the ACC tournament week. He's got the modern-day size. I mean, does Braden Burries have a good enough Big 12 run in which they won the Big 12 championship to kind of cement him as a top 5 pick? You're not really looking at Yaxel here. You're not looking at Nate Ament here. I don't really like any of those targets. So it's a lot of guards on the board. You could definitely just default to Keaton Wagler. I mean, thinking what they would do though, would they take Keaton Wagler number 5? I'm not the biggest Keaton Wagler fan over some of these guys, but I think that's what the Clippers could end up doing because he has the size. You think he could be a solid defender. He doesn't have great athleticism, but he knows how to make it up in other ways. He's a very crafty shot creator. He knows how to get a first step on defenders. When he's getting somebody to attack a closeout, he can attack a ball screen. I'm going to go Keegan Wagler 5, but keep an eye on Mikal Brown and definitely keep an eye on Kingston Fleming's in that spot. So here at number 6, like what do the Brooklyn Nets do? Because this team has Diego Drummond. They have Nolan Traore. They don't want to really add another true point guard in a way. Does that mean it's Kingston Fleming's? I low-key think this could be Mikal Brown Jr. or Braden Burries. And I think the Nets just end up going best player available. So I'm going to have them select Kingston Flemings out of Houston. I know it's another guard for this team, but Flemings is a good shooter. He's a good defender, and you can have Yegor play off ball. He's been a very solid three-point shooter for the Nets before his season-ending injury. Could this hinder Nolan Traore's development a little bit? Yes, but when you're the Nets and you don't own your first-round pick in 2027, you got to go best player available. Number 7 here for Dallas. I love this fit. Darius Acuff. I definitely like Mikal Brown Jr. as well, but I think Darius Acuff could play out there with Kyrie Irving. Now, there's going to be some question marks defensively with that duo, but Kyrie's not going to be here forever as he's getting up there in age and he's recovering from an ACL tear. But if you have these high motor, switchable, like almost elite defenders behind Darius Acuff, I think you can make it work with Cooper Flagg, PJ Washington, Gafford, Najee Marshall, Derek Lively. Acuff is not a great defender. You could say he's not a good defender. Sometimes he gets a little lackadaisical if he's like in the corner, a guy can catch him sleeping and just cut right behind him. He's not somebody with a super high motor defensively, but he can make an athletic player or two, and he obviously makes it up for the offensive end of the floor. He wants that ball to give it back to. He wants to push the floor, and I think him and Cooper Flag can have such an elite pick and roll partnership. I just want to see that match. I think it's a great pairing. Darius Cuff and Cooper Flag in Dallas, and that's going to be the selection there at number 7. So here we are at number 8 for the Memphis Grizzlies. I think it comes down between two players, Mikal Brown Jr. or Braden Burries. I'm going to go Mikal Brown Jr. I still believe Mikal Brown Jr. could be one of the best guards from this draft. I'm not really sure how he's going to look in March Madness, if he's going to be fully healthy for them, because it hasn't been the greatest year for Pat Kelsey in Louisville with the high expectations they had after like breaking out onto the scene last year in Kelsey's first year there. And like I said before, Mikal Brown has dealt with multiple injuries so far. Ty Jerome is under contract for at least one more year. He has a player option. They're going to try to trade away John Morant. I like Javon Small and Scottie Pippen Jr., but these aren't like long-term options at the 1. And I think Mikal Brown Jr. would be the pick here for Memphis. So number 9 here, the Chicago Bulls. This one is easy for me. It's Braden Burries. I know it's just like, does Chicago need another guard? Honestly, maybe, because Burries can hold his own defensively. He's in that tweener spot right now where he's not like a true initiating point guard. He's not a floor general out there, but he's a crafty scorer. He is so good in transition on the offensive end of the floor. That's what I like about Chicago sometimes, when they're running and gunning, when they're pushing the tempo with Shkity and Matas Buzelis. And at the time it was with, I'd assume, and Kobe White. Not anymore. I mean, is Rob Dillingham going to be on this team next year? Colin Sexton is a free agent. Jaden Ivey's a free agent. A lot of these guys could not be here in Chicago, and there could be plenty of room and plenty of minutes for Braden Burries to get his shot opportunities. He's been a huge draft riser throughout the Big 12 tourney. Probably the best Arizona Wildcat this year, up there with Jaden Bradley. I think better than his freshman counterpart in Koa Pete. And Braden Burries has been super efficient. He averages over a steal and a half a night, and I think could be a very solid fit in Chicago next to Josh Giddey in that backcourt. He's a fine defender. He's not like an elite point of attack defender by any means, but he can hold his own. And I believe this was once like Braylon Mullins' spot. I think Braden Burries has definitely lapped him as like one of the better shooting guards in this draft. So we're on the clock here, 10, with the Milwaukee Bucks. What does this team do? Are we operating in the sense that Giannis is back or Giannis is not back? Because if Giannis is back, I want somebody that can make an immediate impact. LeBaron Philon, Yaxel Lendenberg. But if he's not going to be back, do we look at Nate Ament, the project player? Do we look at maybe a Braylon Mullins, who could go back to UConn at this point? Who really knows? And somebody that's had a strong tournament run. They lost in the Big 12 championship to Arizona. Chris Sinak reminds me a lot of Kel'el Ware, where he's like 6'11", 7 feet tall. He doesn't really play like a true center, but he could be a good shot blocker. He's a great rebounder on the offensive side and the defensive side. I like his motor a lot more than Kel'el Ware's. Maybe not as good of a three-point shooter, but definitely could be a good spot-up shooter at the NBA level. And I think even with Giannis or without Giannis, this makes a ton of sense because one, we need some rebounding around Miles Turner or in replace of Miles Turner, because Miles Turner is not the greatest rebounder in the world for somebody at the center position. So you have Sinak, who can either back up Miles Turner and can give you kind of a change of pace, a better rebounder on both ends, but can also be out there with Miles Turner because he can space the floor. And I think they just need to add to that front court depth, right? Like Kyle Kuzma's not going to be here for much longer. They're taking a lot of chances on Ousmane Dieng and what he could be for this team. Jericho Sims as a backup big. Let's go in a different direction and let's pick up Chris Sinak. 11 here for the Portland Trailblazers. LeBaron Philon still on the board. I probably would have Philon go here, but it's just Damian Lillard, Scoot Henderson, Shaedon Sharpe, Drew Holiday. Where are the minutes for LeBaron Philon? So I want to add to that front court depth. Nate Ament could make a lot of sense for this team in terms of a long-term play. They already did that last year with Hansen Yang. I don't want to take another chance. It's between Yaxel Lendenberg or Koa Pete. Yaxel is definitely a better three-point shooter than Koa Pete, but I like Koa Pete more long-term as a player at the NBA level. I don't think Portland is like one Yaxel Lendenberg away from making an NBA Finals push, so I think they should take the long-term play in Koa Pete. Really good inside presence. Not the worst court vision out of the short roll or somebody that can find a man cutting baseline, and I think could be somebody great under the basket for Donovan Clingan, who can now space the floor, so you can have Koa Pete out there with Donovan Clingan, because Clingan can kind of be your three-point shooter while Pete can be that traditional center down low. So we're on the clock here, number 12 with the Golden State Warriors. Now they should probably trade this pick. Who knows where the Golden State Warriors are going to finish at the end of the year. Steph Curry might not come back. It might be in their better interest to just, you know what, lose in the playing tournament. You hope the lottery gods are on your side and you're the 2026 version of the 2025 Dallas Mavericks and you get some insane luck. Now, I want this team to still think for the future, but also right now. So they could use some big man depth, and Hans Steinbeck could just be the pick. I thought about Hans Steinbeck at number 10 for the Milwaukee Bucks. There's also a realm where you end up going Axel Lendenberg, gives you also another front court depth piece there at the 4 spot. They trade away Kuminga. Who knows the future of Al Horford in the NBA, Draymond Green, and Kristaps Porzingis. Probably the route I'm going to go. I don't think Axel Lendenberg is the 12th best player in this draft class, and I do think he's got a limited ceiling compared to his counterparts, given his age, and I think there will be some offensive limitations now that he's going from the main guy at Michigan, or usually the main guy every single night, to no, you need to be a role player around Steph Curry and a returning Jimmy Butler. But he's got some three-point pop to his game. He's very physical down low, high motor, really good story, and I think could at least help you next year. But I think if they're picking 12, the Warriors should maybe think about trading that pick to maximize possibly the final year of Steph Curry's career, or one of the final few years of Steph Curry's career. 13 here for Charlotte. Usually Charlotte would be a team I wouldn't mind a project player to go to. They already took that chance on T.J. Salon. I don't really love that. LeBaron Philon still being on the board, I think would make a ton of sense, but they do have Kobe White in the spot going forward. I think Philon is a top 10 player in the class, but this is a mock draft, not a big board. So this is where I would have Hans Stambach going in this class. 13th overall, the Hornets definitely need another big man option. They might more look for a veteran big man this offseason, but they have Moussa Diabate, they have Ryan Kalkbrenner, Hans Steinbeck. He could be the third string center, but he could also play the 4. Hans Steinbeck's got a little bit of a jumper to his game. He's not scared to let it fly and can maybe be something in Charles Lee's offense. He's arguably the best rebounder in this draft class. It's a weak center class. He could end up going higher, and I believe Charlotte would look for another big man there. OKC's picking at 14 via the Sixers, and then 15 via the Clippers. So we have back-to-back picks here for the Thunder. Honestly, there's some project players I don't mind for them here in back-to-back spots. Most likely, these two players are not going to be in their rotation next year. They have Thomas Sorber returning from the ACL. I assume they're going to bring back Hartenstein, but you never know. Not really too sure about Lou Dort's future, but they have Jared McKay now. You have AJ Mitchell, and then obviously Shea, J-Dub, Chet, you name it. There's so much talent in the Thunder's rotation next year. I think you could take the chance on Ament. You have him go to a good developmental system in OKC that could be patient with him, that can give him plenty of runtime as an offensive shot creator in the G League, and they can allow Ament to work on what he needs to work on, where he's not just thrown out into the fire, and it could mess with his confidence, and they can definitely be a little bit more patient with him than some of these other teams. He's definitely a better prospect than Ousmane Dieng. He's going to get a lot of comps to Reece Shea, and honestly, if he's Reece Shea at the NBA level, you take that. 15 here. I love the idea of LeBaron Philon. Do they need another guard? No. I believe they could take a chance on Jaden Quaidens. Jaden Quaidens might not play a ton next year. He's definitely, when healthy, the best defensive center in this class, but he has been the opposite of healthy this year for the Kentucky Wildcats. He played like 4 games for them. He has a late start because he's recovering from the ACL tear. He looks great against St. John's, and that was his only really good game this year. Quaidens can be a good perimeter defender, a rim protector. He could be a good defender in the post. He can get into passing lanes. He's going to be, I think, an elite shot blocker if he does return to his full strength. You have Sorber coming back. Quaidens could definitely spend some time in the G League as well. And with OKC having 14 and 15, I went a little bit more high upside, high risk, high reward if you can hit on those picks. 16 here for the San Antonio Spurs. What does this team need? They need shooting. They need big man depth as well. Thomas Houck could be in that realm for them. Morris Johnson, I like a lot, out of Michigan, could be in play for them. I think it's a little bit early for like an Adey Mara if they want to go that route. Joshua Jefferson has had a really good Big 12 tournament. They lost in heartbreaking fashion to Arizona in the semis. And for San Antonio here at 16, I think they could take the chance on Braylon Mullins. I do have Braylon Mullins around this range on my big board. I would love to see more consistency out of him this year. There is a chance he could go back to school. He could be a sophomore at UConn. We've seen it in the past with guys like Donovan Clingan. Alex Caravan ended up being a 4-year guy there, so it wouldn't shock me if Braylon Mullins stayed another year. I thought there was a small chance that Liam McNeely last year was going to stay at UConn. Braylon Mullins could use it, but if he does go to the draft, the Spurs might not ask a ton out of this pick because they also have Carter Bryant on their roster who didn't really play a ton as a rookie this season. That is going to look for more minutes next year. And Braylon Mullins, though, can be one of the best shooters in this draft on the board here. I think Isaiah Evans or Braylon Mullins would make a ton of sense for San Antonio. On the clock, 17 for the Raptors. This one is easy for me. It is LeBaron Philon. He should probably go about 7 picks earlier than this if this was my big board. It's just Philon, you're not going to have him play the 2. He's not going to be a great defender, but this man can score. He could flat out score. He's not as good of a passer as like Darius Cuff or some of those guards in the top 10, 10, but I do believe that Phylon could be an efficient scorer at the NBA level. He's not going to get as many shots per game as he's getting right now at Alabama than he will at the NBA level. He relies a lot on pick and roll, but I believe the talent is there. Toronto needs another point guard. They need somebody that can shoot the ball. Quickly could be a comp in a way for LeBaron Phylon, so is it redundant? No. They need shooters. They need point guards, and Phylon could be that guy. I would love to see him in Houston, but we know they don't have their first round pick. So we're on the clock here, 18 with the Miami Heat. They ended up taking Kasper Shakachonis last year. Myron Gardner looks like a good undrafted guy. Pele Larson and Khalil Ware were hits on the 24 class. The Miami Heat know how to draft, and there's a lot of guys on the board here that I would like for the Miami Heat. I would love Dalen Swain. I don't mind the project of Kareem Lopez. Morris Johnson's here. Thomas Houck is here if they want somebody on the perimeter as well. And Houck could definitely be a guy in Miami who I think would be great under Spo's system. He's an adaptable guy. He knows when to cut, knows when to slash. He is phenomenal off ball. He could be a trailer in transition, and this could be a great player under Spo, next to Khalil Ware, next to Bam, can run pick and roll for their point guard next year. 19. The Memphis Grizzlies. So we took Mikael Brown Jr. with the 8th overall pick. So I don't want to take a Bennett Sturts. I don't want to take a Christian Anderson. The team has had a lot of injuries this year in its front court. So I believe Morris Johnson would be a good fit here. Great rebounder, high energy, high intensity, solid defender, great touch around the rim, can set some solid screens. Still on the younger side as well. He was a sophomore, was at Illinois in 2025, transfers to Michigan in 2026. Michigan was a top 3 team all year long, and you have Jackson Lindenberg, Ade Mara, and Morris Johnson in the front court. So you can see why they were so good this year, and Memphis now has 2 first-round picks. That one is from the Desmond Bane trade, and we thought that one could have been a little bit higher as well, because that was the Phoenix swap when a lot of people, including me, thought Phoenix was going to be pretty bad this year. So Charlotte gets 2 first-round picks. Shout out to the Yusuf Nurkic trade last year. We took Hans Steinbuck with the 13th overall pick. I don't mind keeping that shooting mentality of like Christian Anderson here, one of the better shooters in this class. I'm a big Dalen Swain guy, and I think having Dalen Swain, who can crash the glass as good as anybody, they love to take a lot of threes in Charlotte with Miller, Knipple, LaMelo Ball, and now Kobe White. You can have him a little bit as a stretch 4 as well if Miles Bridges isn't out there, is gone in a few years. Swain definitely needs to work on his three-point shot, but this team definitely needs more wing depth in a way, because will Tijon Salon be a long-term answer there off the bench? Who really knows? Josh Green's probably not going to be there in a few years. I like Swain more as a prospect than I did of Liam McNeely last year going forward, and I think he could be probably better than Sion James long-term for this team. So 21 Atlanta, we took Cameron Boozer with the 2nd overall pick. This draft fell nicely for them because they could take Bennett Sturts or Christian Anderson. I would like to have a little bit better of an initiator in Bennett Sturts. Now, Anderson is a really good passer, but I do believe in Sturts' shot-making ability. He's not going to turn the ball over, which I think would be huge for Atlanta. They need somebody that's not going to have a lot of mistakes, and that could be Bennett Sturts. And I low-key love this draft. It's a slow play style of Bennett Sturts and Cam Boozer, that's for sure, but you do get some guys that maybe have a similar style in a way than polar opposites. 22 for Detroit. It's actually pretty easy for me. It's Christian Anderson. Dennis Jenkins has been a fun story this year. Jaden Ivey's no longer there. Kevin Huerter's probably not going to be there next year. Christian Anderson is one of the best shooters in this draft. We've seen him elevate his game when JT Toppin tore his ACL and trying to step up as the number 1 in Texas Tech. And I do believe would be a great bench scoring guard for the Detroit Pistons. So we're on the clock here, 23 with the Denver Nuggets. I don't think they're going to lose Peyton Watson this offseason, but you never know. Would they just trade away Cam Johnson to save money when we get there? I think this team could always look for bigs behind Nikola Jokic with Valanciunas getting up there in age. They might see a Dave Mara as a developmental guy. By the time Mara could be good, Najee could be off this current deal. Deron Holmes hasn't really worked out or hasn't really played a lot here in year number 2. Joshua Jefferson, I think, would be a really fun fit around Jokic with his basketball IQ. Tyrese Reed had a great Big East tournament. I think that's a little high here at 23. They might value a wing or a movement shooter like an Isaiah Evans, who I do like a lot, because Tim Hardaway Jr. might get a decent bag in free agency, like the way he's played this year. Maybe he ends up back in Denver, but you could look for another good three-point shooter, a really good movement shooter in Isaiah Evans, who had a nice run for the Blue Devils in their ACC championship game, and he was obviously great against Florida State. 24 Philadelphia, this is the pick they traded Jared McCain for. Isaiah Evans probably would have made a lot of sense. Are you going to take a backup here? Because, yeah, you could definitely look for a backup option behind Joel Embiid, actually invest into that position for once. Cam Carr gives them a little bit of size. Amari Allen, they do need some wing help. I mean, this team's wing depth is not fun to watch. It's Kelly Oubre, suspended Paul George, Justin Edwards. I mean, Dominic Barlow's kind of like a wing in a way. I think Amari Allen could end up being a first-round pick out of Alabama. So that's going to be my pick there for Philadelphia. 25, the Los Angeles Lakers, a team that I think could use a rim runner big. around Luka Doncic. Ademara might be the best center here, but I think I'm also looking for the best lob threat. Floyd Badunga or Patrick Gungba, I think, are the two best lob threats between probably Henry Vasar, Badunga, Gungba, and Ademara. And I think Gungba would be a good screen setter for Luka and somebody that he could build up a nice connection with. You know what? He had a good connection with a Duke center in Dallas and Derek Lively. He can have a good connection with a Duke center and Patrick Gungba in Los Angeles. The Knicks could definitely look for a center with Mitchell Robinson hitting free agency. There's a chance he could end up leaving. Cam Carr gives them somewhat of an athletic wing. They definitely lack that. Tona Yesufu is still on the board here, but I think the Knicks would also prioritize three-point shooting. I think Billy Richmond would be an athletic wing they could look at. I'm going to have them go Cam Carr. He was a great shooter this year at Baylor. He's not afraid to shoot the basketball. He's kind of in that Malik Thomas archetype in a way. They're not going to give you too much output outside of scoring the basketball, but there's definitely a glaring hole for the Knicks on the perimeter. Boston at 27. I wouldn't mind them investing in the big man position where you have Keita, who might get a bag in a year from now. Vucevic will probably be back on a discount. So could you look at another center that maybe is better than like Amari Williams long-term or somebody like that? We'll get a Damara in there. We'll get the big body going from, I guess, like Kristaps, the big body to Mara, although Mara, not a floor spacer like Kristaps was. 28 for Cleveland. I like Joshua Jefferson because I think Jefferson is a very smart player that would work out well in the system. They had, like, I'm not going to comp them to George Niang. They both went to Iowa State, but I do believe Joshua Jefferson could be a Kyle Anderson type player, and I think can just not really do much wrong for the Cavs, and is just going to make smart plays, not turn the ball over. Great passer, really good rebounder, some more front court depth as well. 29 here, the Minnesota Timberwolves, another team that could look at a guard, but I do believe they're going to bring back Dosunmu at the end of the year. So Tower Tanner, I like a lot here. Malik Thomas, Abeka Corey, if he does go into the draft. This is a little bit tough. Yesufu plays exactly like Anthony Edwards, so you get the carbon copy there. Dame Sarr, really good perimeter defender. The Timberwolves defense has not looked great as of late. I do think Billy Richmond can kind of slide into that first round as well out of Arkansas. I'm going to go Billy Richmond because Kareem Lopez's defense really does scare me. And lastly, with the 30th overall pick here, what do the Mavericks end up going with? We took Darius Cup with the 7th overall selection. I mean, Kareem Lopez as a little bit of a project stretch for this team. Do you trust the health of Derek Lively long term? Do you trade Daniel Gafford? Do you look at a center? I think I would also like them just addressing more back. Like, you have Max Christie. This team actually has so many wings. They could bring back Brandon Williams. You have Ryan Nembhard, Kyrie Irving, now Darius Cuff. You have PJ Washington, Najee Marshall under an expiring contract, Max Christie, Cooper Flagg. Maybe you think that one of those guys could eventually leave you. So do you go Yesufu, lacks a three-point shot? Kareem Lopez gives you a little bit more upside as a stretch four. I'm going to have Kareem Lopez. And not having Yesufu, like, for the first time ever in my top 30, I think there's a chance he could go back to school at Baylor. So that is my post-conference tournament, start of March Madness mock draft. Would love to know what you guys think about this mock draft down below. Do you like the pick I made for your team? Do you dislike it? Like I said, make sure you are subscribed because we're going to be doing our bracket breakdown and prediction. I'm going to be filling it out in tomorrow's video. And the next mock draft we do will be after the national championship game in early February. So you could be on the lookout for that. Drop a thumbs up if you guys did enjoy. Catch you on the next one. Peace.